Good morning, YouTube. This is Lydia King with Sweet King's Gardening, and welcome back. So today is Monday, March 7th. I've taken about a week off because, as you can hear, I caught a horrible cold and I lost my voice completely for like a week, so I'm recovering. Figured you probably didn't want to hear me try and narrate with a super scratchy voice, but I'm on the mend. I'm drinking some tea. I wanted to kind of catch you up with some of the few things I was able to get done this past week, and we have some time before work to finish some things. So, as you can see, we're in a new room now. I've completely abandoned that small room in terms of seed starting, and I've moved into my home office, so I'm splitting time with work and babysitting my plant starts, which honestly is like perfect for me because I'm constantly obsessing about these things anyway. So we still have our microgreen trays. So believe it or not, this is that first tray that we started that I almost abandoned, and it has filled out so nicely. So I am just so impressed. And of course, with me being under the weather last week, I did not have much of an appetite at all. So I barely ate much of anything, and it pretty much consisted of ice cream because my throat hurt so bad. But I will be eating a lot of microgreens this week because I've finally got my appetite back. But I have 2 microgreen trays here, and I'm just like so tickled. What I am going to do is I'm going to start another tray of seeds that will go into my spring and summer gardens. And I am going to transfer these guys over to this table over here and set up lamps. Now, these are new lights for us. My husband found these in his garage, and he said, "Hey, do you need help putting them up?" I said, "Sure." And then, of course, in his ever so engineering nature, he constructed this very high-tech light stand for me. So I'm super thankful. It's done an amazing job keeping my microgreens nice and healthy, but I also started some seeds. So I started seeds on March 2nd, so 5 days ago, and I currently have them in a tray with a humidity dome on them. So I'm going to take off the dome just so you can see what's underneath. Okay, so speaking of humidity, it's starting to get warm in my house. It's supposed to get up to 75 degrees today in Maryland, so I am so excited because it just reminds me of a nice cool spring day. You could hear the birds chirping. You may be able to hear them outside this window. So I'm going to give you a little tour of what I planted last week. My, of course, intent was to take you all along with me as I planted these, but I, of course, had no voice to narrate, so I just planted this tray. I have a second tray that we're going to plant in just a moment, so I'll, of course, take you along the journey. So these are, I think, 2.5, 2.25 size pots. I never start super small and then up pot. I usually just stick with this. I had purchased these tags from Amazon. I'll link them down below. They come in an array of colors. So the red tags, for the most part, are all tomatoes, and then the pink tabs are all for peppers. All of these are in my seed starting video. I'll link that here for anyone who wants to hear a full description of what these tomatoes and peppers will look like. So what I have here are 2 black strawberry plants. These are tomatoes, and they have started to germinate. I have 1 heirloom tomato. It has not germinated. I have 2 prairie fires. I have 2 started of dark star hybrids. As you can see, 2 germinated in each. I did put several tomatoes in each of these with the intent that if more than one took, I'll separate them once they get their true leaves and then transfer the excess into other pots and then see if I have room for them or if I can give them away. So next I have lemon boys. So we have 2 that emerged here. Then I have Easy Sauce Hybrid. Easy Sauce Hybrid I don't believe was in my seed starting video. This is like a Roma tomato that I planted for the first time last year. I loved it for making pasta sauces and salsa, so that was absolutely a plant again for me. And it looks like we have 2 in this front cell here and just 1 that's starting to emerge. Oh, and it looks like another one's going to emerge back there as well. Then we have Paul Robeson, so 2 in each so far. And then 2 watermelons here. So these are the sugar baby watermelons. I don't see anything germinated in this cell, but I do see one in here. I can't safely take that seed off. But these are supposed to be medium-sized watermelons. So of course these are the only 2 red tags that are not tomatoes. And then back here I have the Ruby Monster Hybrid. I have 2 that germinated. Moving on to actually the tomato-ish or tomatillos. So I planted 3 cells of those. It looks like 2 of them germinated back here. I've never grown these before, and I heard that they can be finicky, so I just decided to go with 3 starts. Then moving on to the peppers, we have candy cane peppers, sweet bell rainbow, which is just rainbow bell peppers, 2 of the banana hybrids, 2 golden Greek pepperoncinis. I have jalapeno, shishito peppers, poblano peppers, my dad's cayenne peppers, and habaneros. I'd say so far so good. We're off to a great start. I'm not the least bit concerned. I did not see any germination yet with my peppers. In fact, last year when I started seeds, I had a different seed starting system, and I can remember planting specifically jalapeno peppers, and like everything in my tray had germinated except for this 1 row of jalapenos. Now the packet that I had used was super old, so I was like, oh, maybe the seeds didn't take. But again, I did not toss them. I just kind of was like, I'll just let them go and hopefully they'll eventually take, and sure enough they did. So sometimes it just takes longer than others. But of course, if you do have seed packets that have, of course, the specifications on the back, or if you can go online, you can read how long the typical time is for germination. So, as you can hear, I have not talked this much in a very long time, so I definitely have my tea here. So I've put the humidity dome back on to my first tray. I've moved my microgreens over to the other table. I'm gonna put those lamps on a timer. These lights are going to hang out and be on for 10 hours. I am running out of time before work, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the seeds that I plan on starting in my second tray, and I'm going to start writing out the tags. I think this is going to turn into a day in my life, but like a planting version. We'll have to resume this process on my lunch break. But I also have strawberries to plant today, so stay tuned for that. So I'm gonna let you all go. I'm gonna write out my seed tags and kind of get organized, and then I'll check back in on my lunch break. So talk to you soon, bye. All right, so we're now on my lunch break, so we're gonna resume this process. I'm just gonna show you exactly how many of what I'll be planting today, and then I have an area designated on my table. So I'm going to plant 1 poblano pepper plant. These are actually seeds that I saved from my poblano peppers last year. I bought a plant start from Mom's Organic Market last year, and then let some of those peppers fully mature and harvested some seeds. I've never started plants from seeds that I've saved before, so this is going to be kind of like a test plant for myself. So I made sure I have other poblano varieties that I am starting from seed, but those are from seeds that I actually purchased. So we're gonna see how this method works with seed starting. I'm going to plant 2 plants of cilantro. Alex and I eat a lot of cilantro all throughout the year. I find that cilantro is really hard for my growing area in Maryland. It tends to bolt when it gets super, super hot, and it's just like a pain. So I will be planting 2 cilantro plants initially, have parsley, and then I will be planting 2 plants of dill, and again, those are to accompany my cucumbers that I'll be direct sowing, so that when the cucumbers start to produce, I can make my dill pickles. I'll also be planting 1 plant of sage, 1 of the holy basil, which I've never planted before, but I've heard it smells amazing, so I'm looking forward to that. I am also going to start 4 chamomile plants. So I plan on drying chamomile for the flowers and maybe make some tea. New this year will be nasturtium. So I did not include nasturtium in my seed packet haul in my previous video. However, when I was at Mom's Organic Market. I seen a seed pack of these, and that since that time I had also seen people actually eating nasturtium plants, and the flowers also look beautiful. So we're actually going to plant 3 nasturtiums for the very first time this year. And then I have 3 tags for borage. Borage is going to be beautiful and wonderful for our pollinators, and it also has gorgeous flowers, which I plan to then put into ice cube trays and freeze, and then have those pretty flower ice cubes in fun festive drinks over the summertime. So it's a bit windy out today, so I'm hoping that you all will be able to hear me fine, but I'm gonna move everyone outside and we're gonna go from there. So I have a makeshift area up here. I'm going to fill this tray with some potting soil mix and some water. I'm gonna mix this up really nicely so it's already moist but not saturated. And what this will allow me to do is pack my pots ahead of time and then add the seeds into them. Oh, I have my tray here. I'm just hoping my tags and everything don't blow away. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. We have 18 pots that we're gonna start today. I have a 32 cell tray here, so we have plenty of room, and we'll obviously have excess cells that we're not going to plant today. But keep in mind, I had loaded up some of those tomatoes inside with multiple plants in one pot. Once they get mature enough, I will be splitting them in 2, and I will need empty places and more pots to put those extra tomato plants in. So we're keeping on pace. I'm not going to plant everything in what I have right now. Also, I will be direct sowing a lot of things such as cucumbers, beans, lettuce. So what I'm starting from seed is not all inclusive of what I'll be planting for this entire growing season. I will include in the description where I purchased all of my seed starting stuff, with the exception of those random lights that my husband found for me. We are about 5 weeks from our scheduled last frost. Of course, that's a tentative date, but I have to say I've been online watching everyone that have started seeds indoors, and I hadn't planted a single thing or started a single thing, and I was just growing anxious and anxious by the day. So I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball, but I'm not being discouraged because, one, I know that eventually I'll be growing, and I'd rather be a little bit late than way too early, and then my plants get too mature indoors and not have anywhere to go. Now that we're finished filling our pots, I'm now going to put my labels in first, so I know exactly what I'm planting when I'm ready to add my seeds. Before I go in and grab my seeds, I'm just going to lightly indent where I want to put my plants or my seeds, so that when I grab my seeds, I'll have clean, dry hands. All right, so I'm gonna grab my seeds and I'll be right back. Okay, so I switched the pots a little bit so that they're facing your way, and hopefully you can see everything a little bit better. What I have here are my pots ready to go. They have the somewhat moistened soil. I have the appropriate labels, and now I'm going to go in order and add in my seeds. Now, so I don't get confused, I'm going to put my seeds in the order in which they appear from my view. So I'm going to start with the poblanos and borage. So that's going to be the order that we're going to use. As I'm done with each seed, I'm going to put them in this way. Again, it's super windy, so I don't want any of my precious seeds to fly away. So right here in the poblano pepper pot. I'm actually going to plant 2 seeds just because, again, it was my first time actually saving seeds. So in case one does not germinate it, we'll just see if there's 2. And perhaps we'll split the pot if both of them end up being healthy. But I'm just going to sow them at the surface level for right now because I want to keep my hands clean. This is my first time growing forage. Oh, they're neat looking seeds. That's pretty cool. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Next we have chamomile. Oh my goodness, these are tiny. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna sow these chamomile seeds. Oh my gosh. There's a chance I might accidentally plant these in the other pots. Holy cow. I did not know these were tiny. This is like the worst thing ever to plant on a windy day. Okay, so there's a possibility my chamomile may run into the other plants, but we'll see. I just kind of spread a small handful in each. So next so these dill seeds are kind of tiny also, not nearly as bad as the chamomile. So I have about 3 seeds in each pot. Next we have parsley. These are super old seeds. I want to say probably a couple of years old. Oh my gosh. So they were packed in 2015. They should still be good, but maybe not as good as fresh seeds. So I'm gonna be a little more liberal than normal. Now I have my sage. Came in a smaller container. That was pretty cool, I guess. The seeds look pretty cool. I'm gonna just plant 2 of them. Kind of separate from each other though. Next we have our holy basil. I've never grown basil from seed before, so I'm curious. And I've just realized I don't even have sweet basil to plant this year. So my goal was to not buy any started plants. So I did let my last basil plant from last year go to seed. So hopefully that will pop up. If so, then that would be awesome. Otherwise, I'll have to go and get some seed packets. So now I have cilantro. Just putting 2 seeds here. This cilantro is another old packet. This is from 2016. And then last we have nasturtium. So I'm curious to see what these seeds look like because again, this is new for me this year. Holy moly, they're big. These are big seeds. Oh my gosh, they look like mini brains. I don't know if you can see. I don't mean to be sick, and maybe it's because I'm in the medical industry. Does that look like a brain to you? And also, pardon my busted nails. I have not gone anywhere in about a week now, including the nail salon, so. Now, because these are larger seeds, I'm actually planting them deeper into the pots than the other tiny seeds. The other tiny seeds are pretty much surface sown. Now I'm going to cover everything up. I'm being mindful not to pick up any seeds with my fingers as I cover this up. Actually, better yet, because I don't want to risk spreading any of these seeds to another pot, I'm going to take some of the excess potting mix that I had already mixed and just add it lightly on top. So the smaller seeds are really going to just be surface sown. Like the chamomile, I'm not really going to put anything on them just because they're so tiny. I might press them lightly into the soil. I'll actually save them for last because I don't want to, with those being so tiny, I don't want to risk patting the soil and then moving the chamomile to my other pots. Now with my other hand, I'm going to take some of those worm castings and just sprinkle on top. Again, just to add some additional nutrients to the mix. When working with these potting mix, I've learned that they don't always have the fertilizer and the extra nutrients that you really want to add to the plants. Now granted, each seed has enough energy to really allow it to germinate, but from there you want to make sure that they can thrive. So we're just giving a little bit of worm castings on top to make sure that they're set up for success. So that is all for this. We're now going to move these inside and I'll show you what the final result looks like with the plants. Okay, we're now back inside and I'll show you what the final result looks like. Here we have our first tray that I started last week on March 2nd. And then this is, of course, now the second tray that I've started today, March 7th. So what I've done with each tag is I've titled, oh my gosh, my nails are so busted. I've titled each plant as well as the date here. And as you can remember, if you watched my seed packet video, I created a spreadsheet where I listed out everything that I wanted to plant this year. I've created a separate column and I'm going to enter the date that I've started these seeds. Also create another column of when I transplant these. That way, if I do have any successes, I can kind of pinpoint, okay, this is the method that worked. Or if I happen to fail and something doesn't work out, I can kind of identify perhaps where I went wrong in the process. So what I've also done is I've created a slate platform for each of these seed trays. And that's because if you look at the distance between where the pots are versus where the lights begin, I don't want my plants reaching too much. So I wanted to elevate them, especially as they're super tiny starts. After, of course, as they grow, I will eliminate this little platform, and then if need be, my husband had notched the grow light system to where I can just raise the bar if I need to. But for right now, I have the humidity dome on the second tray. The humidity dome will remain on each of the trays until all the plants have germinated. After germination, I'm going to remove them, and then it's going to be solely the plants with the grow lights. I'll have a fan going to add some additional breeze, and then hopefully as my plants continue to grow, I'll start to introduce them to the outside elements. Of course, not freezing temperatures, but little by little to just kind of get them acclimated to the outside. You never want to just push all of your plants outside because you're really not setting them up for success. They have to kind of get used to their surroundings, very similar to people. So I am going to spend the rest of my lunch break actually eating my lunch, and then after work today we're going to plant some strawberries. So stay tuned, I'll see you soon. Okay everyone, I'm officially off of work and unfortunately it's gloomy and raining outside. Although warm, but there's no way that I'm going to be planting my strawberries today. So I'll have to take you guys along with me another day. I actually have a lot of great updates outside, which I'll show you another day when the weather is nicer. Thank you for joining me today as we planted some seeds. I'm so excited to see how these little guys take off, and we'll continue to check in with you during the course of all of this. So thanks so much for joining today. If you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, I hope you take care. Bye-bye. So my watering jug is doubling as a little sink for me. So rinse my hands with. All right.